books that were in every English home in the 18th century. This is an introduction I'm doing to 3 videos about books that help form the literary bedrock of Protestantism in England in the 18th century. In fact, there were 4 books that could be found in almost every English home, at least in every Protestant home, if you include the Bible. These books provided the foundation for the spiritual life of ordinary people. So firstly, and most obviously, the Authorised version of the Bible, which was simply known as the Holy Bible, and which we now call the King James Version. However, there were 3 other books which were born out of Reformation England, and which in different ways helped ordinary people understand the basics of the faith and why there had been such a titanic struggle for religious freedom in the country. Robinson Crusoe, published in 1719, is often billed as the first adventure novel, and after its publication it became one of the most widely published books in history. The spiritual message of the book was simply that if a man repents of his sins, he can find salvation anywhere in the world, even on a desert island, simply by turning to Jesus without the need for religion, churches, or any sort of priestcraft. It's a book that I have read and reread many times, and it really has a soul to it. Unlike in an overtly religious book, it does not make out its main character to be anything but a sinful, ordinary man. Crusoe is simply saved by the grace of God and is able to live out his life and enjoy it as a man who knows he has received God's mercy. It's really a fantastic book, and I would recommend it to anybody. The next book was published in 1563, many years before the arrival of the Authorised version of the Bible in 1611. The book not only lists Christian martyrs through history, mostly Protestant ones, but also explains some of the principles on which the Reformation was established. Chapter 9 gives a history of the Reformation and the circumstances that preceded it. It brings to life some of the issues that caused the Reformation in the first place. For instance, it records the conversation the 17-year-old Lady Jane Grey had with the Catholic clergyman John Feckenham, which is spelt Feckenham in Foxe's Book of Martyrs. Lady Jane was in the Tower of London in early 1554 awaiting execution. However, she had the composure to explain to Feckenham about justification by faith, and also to refute his argument that the sacraments are literally Christ's flesh and blood. She tells him plainly that they are simply bread and wine, which put us in remembrance of what Jesus had done for us. The book has been criticised as inaccurate since its publication, but today Foxe has a reputation among historians as a careful and accurate, albeit partisan, historian himself, especially of the events of his own day. The final book is Pilgrims Progress by John Bunyan. Bunyan was a man who was himself in prison for many years for his faith. He was an ordinary man who was distinguished by his faith in Jesus. Pilgrim's Progress is an allegory of a Christian's journey through this life. It starts with the protagonist, called Christian, being convicted of his sins after reading the Bible. The rest of the book is about his journey to redemption and ultimately heaven, while encountering several trials along the way. In true Reformation style, it is about one man's journey with God, not about religious doctrine or traditions. The book interested me because the obstacles Christian faces aren't just the obvious ones of lust, carnality, sloth, ignorance, and so on. They are also morality, civility, and respectability, which can equally pull us off track. So these are the books I've chosen, and they will never be out of date and will remain as a witness to us until the return of the Lord. So thank you for listening. If you found this video interesting, you can find more information at prophecy-workshop.com.